Hi everyone. Today I'm excited to talk with Dave Chesson. He is a former nuclear engineer in the US Navy turned online entrepreneur and more specifically Kindlepreneur. He helps authors learn how they can boost their Kindle sales through Amazon, which he explains through his blog posts, videos, and his software KTP Rocket, which you can also find on his website kindlepreneur.com. So thanks so much for taking the time to join us today, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. It's really good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, this is just so fun and such a big help. I've actually been working my way through your software, your blog posts, all that, and I've been learning so much. But just to kind of start off, would you just share your story, your background, how you got started in the online world, and specifically moved toward Kindle Direct Publishing, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was started really in the military, and the military just kind of kept deploying me. I kept finding myself in different places in the world without my family, and I realized that that's not exactly what I wanted to do. I mean, I love serving, my country, but I really wanted to be there for my kids, and I wasn't. So we started to take a look at exactly what I could do to potentially create a exit strategy, so that I could provide for my family, but do something that's not jumping from one job that takes me away from them to another. And so I started learning about online marketing and about how to drive traffic to either your platform or your product. And then I realized that, wow, if I wrote books, could be my product. And I combined all that marketing expertise into my book sales, and I was able to create that exit strategy. And so about 6 months ago, I was able to say thank you so much to the U.S. military, but I am done, and I'm now home with my kids here in Franklin, Tennessee. So really loving it.
Oh, that's awesome! Wow. So that's amazing. What can happen if you focus on a side project and it can move into a full time thing. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. And I would say to everyone out there, I think the most important part is to know what your definition of success is and then drive for that. There are a lot of people who kind of get into self-publishing and they haven't defined exactly what it is they're trying to work towards. Is it that they just need to get the book out of there, they got a book inside and they just need to get it out? Or is it that they want to be able to make a certain amount of money? Do they, these are things that I think help get authors on the right foot and help them to really look at it from the right perspective. I created Kindlepreneur, the combination of Kindle entrepreneur, because the truth is I wanted my writing to be able to support my family. I see the art and the beauty in writing, but that wasn't my driving factor. That wasn't my definition of success. And so I wrote books dependent on market research and analysis because I knew there were people who wanted those kind of books.
Yeah. Wow, you have a very scientific mind then to figure this all out. That's awesome. So that kind of goes into the next thing I wanted to talk about. You've studied a lot. I mean, I've been reading through your blog posts, obviously not all of them, but a lot of them, and you've studied a lot about what works and what doesn't work for authors as they write books, self-publish them on Amazon. And on your website, you write about how indie authors can learn to find profitable book ideas. Um, and you say that it's important for writers to validate their idea before they even write their book. Why would that be important for authors to do that first?
Well, the thing about book marketing is there's two ways to do it. Okay, we're going to really oversimplify this, but bear with me on this. There's two ways. The first way is that you find out where there is a hungry book reading market on Amazon and you write for what they want. Okay. So there could be 1,000 people a month typing in this certain phrase into Amazon, but they're not finding the books they want. If you provide that book, you now have gotten in front of them and you are selling to a hungry market. That's a lot easier than it is to write the book and then have to go outside of Amazon to some other place in the internet, find that perfect market, that perfect reader, grab them by the collar, and drag them to your book sales page. And what's funny is that most authors are running into the second one, where they've written this amazing book, but the problem is that there's no one on Amazon searching for that book. So now they've got to use this amazing, incredible book marketing skills or online skills to go find the market and bring them to it. So what I say to authors is that what you should do if you don't have this incredible online marketing skills to go find them and bring them, okay, if you don't have a giant platform or a huge email list because you've got fans ready to buy whatever you want, then it's very important that you look at Amazon and say, okay, where's there is an existing market that is close to what I'm thinking about writing? And then you tailor to them so that you know that your book is going to get in front of people who, want to buy and read your book.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so kind of going along with that thought. So what would you say the steps are? How authors can find a profitable book idea that they would also like to write before they even write their book? Because most of us don't start there. Usually we just start, oh, I have an idea. We don't validate anything, right?
Right.
And the other question I had, is this something that works for both fiction and nonfiction?
I was actually going to jump right in there and say it works for both, and I'm going to give you examples for both right at the end of this.
Oh,
but
okay.
there are a couple of things that you need to know in order to say that this is a great idea, that there's an existing market, and that Amazon will help to sell my book. Okay. The first thing you need to know is, what exactly do people type into Amazon? So, I mean, we as avid readers go to Amazon to look for our next book. We don't click on the picture that shows up right there on the homepage of Amazon, because that's not what happens. We go to the search bar, we type something in, and then Amazon presents what it thinks we're looking for. Okay? So when we go to Amazon, we can start typing in an idea, and Amazon starts to auto-suggest what Amazon has seen other people type before. So now you can start to see some of the words other customers have used, and this will allow you to niche down a little bit. Now, I'm going to give you guys an advanced tip. If you do this, I highly recommend using the incognito mode in Google Chrome. Okay, this is if you have Google Chrome on your computer, just right-click on it and then click incognito mode. What that does is it makes sure that your personal information isn't being used by Amazon when they start to auto-suggest. So, like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and if I started to write like space battles, like Amazon would be like, oh, space battles, Star Wars, because you're a Star Wars guy, Dave. Of course you're going to buy a Star Wars thing. So let's go ahead and put that in there for you. But if I'm in incognito, Amazon doesn't know it's me, so they're just going to present the raw data, and that's awesome. Yeah. So using this, the first thing, like I said, was to find out what people are typing in, and through this auto-suggestion feature, Amazon suggests what people have typed in. So you see some of the words that they're thinking of when they're looking for that type of book. Now, the second thing you need to do is that once you have a couple of these, you need to make sure that people are actually spending money on these books. There's a lot of times where we have this great idea and we type it in and we look at the books, but none of those books are making money. All right. Now, if you go to a market and nobody's making money there, then it probably means that if your book shows up there as well, it's not going to make money. I say there's a caveat to this, though, because if you look at these books and they got ugly covers, terrible titles, and they've got 1-star reviews, then maybe it's because nobody's written a good book in that market, and now you've got an opportunity, okay? But what I do like to see is I like to look at the results and see that, okay, a couple of books are making money, but man, I could do a better cover. I've got an even more brilliant title idea. Like, I can beat these, and that's cool. And then I know that if I have the better book, I'll be at the top. I'll reap the benefits instead of them. Which kind of leads us to our third point, which is check the competition. All right. You don't want to end up trying to compete against, J.K. Rowling, or you don't want to try to go against somebody who's got a superb, amazing, book cover with, 5,000 5-star glowing reviews, right? So those are the 3 parts. And again, to recap, that's make sure that you are targeting an existing market using the words that people have typed in before, that books are making some money, and that the books are not so amazing that you can't beat them. And when I have that answer, then I know that the book I'm about to start writing has a very good chance of not only making sales, but having Amazon help me to make the sales. And that is the best way to start your book.
That's great. Yeah. this is something. Sorry, I had a question that just came into my head as we were talking. But so Amazon has this thing where it's the algorithms, I think, right? Where so when you start putting your book, because it's brand new, I think it starts kind of promoting it for you. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. I call it the honeymoon period. So Amazon has a honeymoon period with new authors where when you first publish your book, they give you the benefit of the doubt. They like to churn new products, okay? And so when you start off, Amazon's like, hey, let's give them a better ranking. Let's show them up a little bit more. And authors get this major high from this because they're like, yeah, I'm making money. This is great. Let it just continue. But then the honeymoon period's over. And it depends on what genre or niche you're in or so, but sometimes it's 2 months, sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 1 month. I give it a 1 to 3 month period time, but when it happens, it happens. And all of a sudden, Amazon's like, hey, there's a new one in town, and they drop you, off at the street corner, and they start promoting the other one. And so a lot of people get this emotional high and then this giant low because of it. I say that, if you started this with the idea that that there's a market and that it's not so much competition and everything, you'll be fine. You'll stay up there. You won't have that post, honeymoon period. Instead, you'll just kind of enjoy the continuous sales. Let me give you guys a fiction example so that you can kind of see how this actually applies to fiction. Nonfiction's kind of simple. I'm sure everybody knows that one where it's really the pain point. How do I stop smoking? How do I write a book? Right? Mm-hmm. These are those kind of words. And but let's go with fiction here. So I'm an avid sci-fi military reader, as I'm sure I've mentioned the whole Star Wars thing. And when I go to look for my next book, I don't type in science fiction, right? Because I know what I'm looking for. What I start typing in is something like sci-fi military or something even more niche, which is space marines. Because I know that word embodies the type of science fiction military I like. Because there's a lot of books that say they're science fiction military, but maybe there's like one space battle. But let me tell you, if it's a Space Marines book, the whole thing is space battles. But I know this as a reader. And so if you, as a science fiction writer, are able to do what we just talked about, those 3 things, you'll find that there are a lot of people like me that type in Space Marines. You'll find out that books are making a lot of good money that rank for Space Marines. And you'll find that the competition isn't that great. Most of the books that show up have like 3 stars. So it proves to me that there's a hungry market out there, myself included in that group, that is willing to pay for not so great books because they want their Space Marine fix. And that is a beautiful foot in the door for a writer, because without being famous, being your first book, so long as you put together a great book and you've got a good cover and a fitting title, and you get there, there's not that much competition that you can get up to the top and start to benefit from those sales. And then what authors will start to see is that when they start making those initial sales, when Amazon starts to see that, hey, this book's really converting well, people must like it, Amazon will keep that honeymoon going, and they'll actually put you out there in front of other things. You might not have requested sci-fi military, but Amazon knows that, hey, I'll bet you we should try this in sci-fi military and see how it does there. And your book starts to grow organically. And then you have this reach. And that's the beautiful part. So knowing where you're going to start and niche and target is like the spark you need to potentially start the wildfire.
So I have been starting to use your software, KTP Rocket, and it's good. I need to re-listen to the tutorials because it's really, really helpful. Because I'd never didn't even cross my mind to validate the book idea first, right? But would you share how KTP Rocket helps writers narrow down which book idea to go with, like how much interest there is, how profitable the book idea is, how competitive, would you just kind of share that?
So I created KTP Rocket with those 3 things in mind, right? Knowing what people type into Amazon, how much money those books are making, and how hard is the competition. And so basically we streamline it to do exactly that. If you start, you open up KTP Rocket and you just type in your initial book idea. KTP Rocket will find all of the Amazon suggestions that Amazon has, and it will also put Google in there too, just because that's another search engine where people type stuff in, so it might give you another idea. Then it will list the number of books that compete for those exact terms on Amazon. It'll list the average amount of money the top books are making that show up for that term in Amazon. It'll tell you how many people per month type that into Amazon. So now you actually know the number. And it's I won't say it's an exact number. It's a very good estimate of how many people type that into Amazon. And finally, it gives you a competition score from 1 to 100. So you can immediately say, hey, this is way less competitive than this one. And that right there answers the three things we talked about and helps you to find that opportunity that may exist. But I'll also go another step here too. This isn't a software that promises to make authors rich. Matter of fact, I tell you, the market research most of the time helps authors not to make mistakes. If you're that new author and you're truly wanting to write that memoir, okay, you'll use KTP Rocket and probably find that there is no particular market that is interested in your memoir. It doesn't mean that you can't write that book. It means that you cannot depend on Amazon to sell that book. You have now got to create a book marketing plan that, like we said in the other one, goes out, finds the people who need to read your memoir, your story, or whatever it is, and brings them to your Amazon sales page. So I think it's really this tool that kind of unveils the cloud of mystery in Amazon and helps authors to know what the potential market is, what they're potentially going to make from this book, and whether or not they need to alter their book marketing plan so that they can make this a success.
I understand from different podcast interviews that you've given that you also write books under different pen names because you've been experimenting with your own software. Totally makes sense. So would you share how you've written new books as a first-time author with a new pen name each time you write, and then what you've discovered as you've experimented?
Well, the fact is that here's a great analogy of this, right? If you're going to give a speech, but you have no idea who you're speaking to, it's probably not going to be a good speech. But if you're the only guy in town that has the answer that everybody wants, it doesn't matter who your name is. You've got the answer, right?
Yeah.
The crowd is going to want to listen to what you have to say. And it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
And that's exactly it, is that if I find that there is a market that's hungry for something, okay, and they're willing to pay money for it, and I provide the best content for that, then I don't have to be Dave Chesson of a very large website. I don't have to be so-and-so. I just got to be the guy that's presented it and presented it well and written for them. And the other thing for me, one of the things I love about this too is that, you'll find a lot of people in book marketing who, will put these giganto numbers and everything like that. And you'll be like, oh man, that's awesome. But here's the thing though, when you start to build your blog and your giant email list, it kind of becomes really easy to make a lot of money with books because you have a market that you can always reach out to and direct to your books. So for me, every time I write a new book, I've got to rely on all the things I'm talking about on Kindlepreneur. I can't rely off of the traffic that I get from my website. So it's not like a self-proclaimed, prophecy or anything. Like I've actually got to get in the ditches and start like a brand new author, so as to make sure that I'm on top of what's new in marketing and how to gain that competitive advantage, even as a first-time writer.
Wow. I admire that. That's awesome.
I'm not going to lie. I really enjoy the game, to tell you the truth. I kind of look at it as like this major challenge. And so I'm like, I can do this. I can gain a competitive advantage on these guys who've been here for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's great. That's really great. As you've done this research on Amazon and which makes marketing your books easier. Readers continue to give input on your book. So are there ways that authors can look on Amazon and dig further into even more sub niches? I guess is that the right word? Under the categories on Amazon. I'm not sure if I know the right terms, but so that an author's book will find greater discoverability.
Right. So let's dispel something here. There's keywords and categories, right?
Yeah.
So categories. Let me start off by saying that keywords are the words that people type into the search bar, and then that presents a result of books, right?
Right.
So that's a quick way to be discovered, is that if you rank number one for a particular keyword that people type in all the time, then you will be discovered, like done. Now let's go over to categories, because one thing I see a lot of authors make a mistake on is I think we put a little too much value on categories, except for certain two reasons, okay? Two reasons when I actually care about a category. The first one is if I can rank number one for that category. Because when you rank number one, you're the bestseller in that category. But what's important is that Amazon puts this little tag right there on the results that says bestseller. So when someone types in a keyword and they see all these books, they're going to see my bestseller, and there's going to be a much higher click-through rate. So I'm going to have this like, hey, look at me tag, and that's awesome. The other time that I care about categories is if I can rank in the top 20 for a very well-loved category, okay? So this is very important for fiction, is that when another way that I look for my next sci-fi military book is I go to the sci-fi military category, and I look at the top books, and I'm like, hey, look at that. That's a good one, and I'll click it. Now, the thing is that it's the more niche your category is, the less people are going to be going to that category to then choose their next book. But again, like, it's one of those where when I select my categories, I actually like to choose one that's super niche so that I have that higher chance for being number one in the category. And then I try to choose one that I think is not too competitive, but is a total good fit, and that people would probably go to that to look for their next book. So it's important to niche down, but it's also important to not niche down too. And so that's the beautiful thing about getting to select your first two, is I would hit those two types when you do it. Now, finding the most niche, that one can be a little hard because Amazon's a little weird about it. There are actually 4,700 plus categories in Amazon, right? Yeah, they're growing like all the time. Like new ones are popping up, but you can't find them by clicking and following the rabbit, down the rabbit hole. What I recommend to people is that when you start typing in the keywords that you think your book is about, go ahead and click on the books that show up and look to see if they've done their homework for you and they found that super niche category. All right. And then click on them. And then look at what book ranks number one in that category and see if you can sell more than them. And if you can, then great. You're the number one bestseller.
Wow. I just wanted to ask something. You were saying about keywords. So I didn't realize until like maybe even a couple of years ago that your keyword didn't just have to be one word. It could actually be a phrase, right?
Yes,
a phrase
absolutely.
That people are. I always thought, oh, it has to be one word. Oh, wow, better be a good word because because you choose 7 when you actually self-publish your book, right? You choose 7. I think it's 7 words or phrases, right?
Yep.
And so I guess it's important to really study maybe your competitors' books. Would that be true?
Yeah, definitely.
To help find the keywords and the phrases.
Well, and the bummer part is Amazon doesn't tell you what keywords somebody used, right? So I actually tried looking through the source code of the HTML, just seeing if it was like hiding in there as like a meta tag. No, I was like, bummer. But sometimes when you're looking, especially in like nonfiction, you'll see somebody who writes like a nonfiction book, and then in their subtitle, they'll have this inside parentheses that says like, Evernote for authors, Evernote, right? Evernote. It's like, well, we know which 7 keywords they used. But one of the questions that a lot of people ask me is, I believe it's 150 characters. Maybe it's 100 characters. I can't remember off the top of my head. But there's a certain amount of number of letters you can put in each one of those 7. And there are a lot of people out there that recommend, hey, just put as many words inside of that, and that'll help. I'm not a fan of that. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know for sure because I don't work for Amazon, but the way I see it is that if you've done your market research, you'll know what truly is of value to you, and it's more important that you target that and you target it well. So just doing a shotgun effect where, there's things all over the place, that's not going to help you be targeted for that one particular thing. That's just like throwing spaghetti, a whole bowl of spaghetti on the wall and hoping something sticks. Like, yeah. I say, do your research, know what you truly want, make it obvious to the Amazon algorithm that that's what you want, and Amazon will reward.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So are there some ninja tips that would help authors get their books to rise up to the ranks that you've, discovered as you've been researching and stuff?
Yeah, there's two things I want to tell for authors if they want to rank their book better in keyword results, okay? The first is that make sure that you've made it obvious to the Amazon algorithm that you want that particular keyword. So you can choose your 7 Kindle keywords or phrases, right? And you put that in there, that's great. Now, if you do that and you check Amazon, you don't even see your book showing up anywhere. You've checked like page 7, 8, 9 in the results and you're still not there. Yeah. Then that means that Amazon needs a little bit more than just, it was selected as your keyword. Like they're probably like, okay, guy, there's like millions of you people asking for this, but you got to show us a little bit more. So to prove to them, you can consider putting it in your title or your subtitle. All right, that definitely helps, because why would Amazon not index someone who, like, straight up that's the title? Like, makes sense, right? Yeah. I've also found where there's a lot of people that disagreed with me, but I found where Amazon actually says this. Put it in your description. Yes, Amazon flat out states that they do index the description and they use it in their indexing of Amazon. So let's lay that argument to rest, okay? It's said by Amazon. So put it in the description. Those are some ways to let the calculation, the algorithm, know that your book should probably show up for these results. Now, that gets you to index. And index is a word, I'm sorry, I used it way too many times, but it means to get Amazon to say, okay, yeah, we should show this book anytime somebody types it in. But that doesn't mean you get to show up at the top. That's the rankings. So to prove to the calculation that your book should be at the top of that search. So say it's Space Marines, right? And I want to show up number 1 for when somebody types in the word Space Marines. I need to prove to Amazon that by putting my book at the top, I'm going to make them more money. Like flat out. That's the whole purpose of the search result. They want to make more money. So to do this, my recommendation to everybody out there is that when you go to publish your book and you verify that you index for that keyword, instead of just sending your link out to people that you know are going to buy it, right? Your fans or your beta readers or ARC readers or whatever it is, right? Tell them, please go to Amazon, type in Space Marines, find my book, and pick it up that way. Because what you just told Amazon, or what they're telling Amazon, is, wow, look at all these people. They typed in Space Marines, and that book was the one they wanted. Well, let's go ahead and raise that up to the top and see what happens. Now, some people say, Dave, that's totally spammy. You're totally gaming the system and you suck. And no. Hold on. Give me a second here. The thing about it is that you're giving your book a chance to prove that it is worthy of being up there. But if your book cover sucks and your title sucks and your book description sucks, then even with that tactic, it will get you right to the top. Okay. However, though, other people that don't know you, okay, they're going to type in Space Marines and they're going to be like, oh, heck no. And they're going to click on the ones below you. And Amazon's going to quickly be like, oh, all right, let's go ahead and bring this one back down. And then you'll fall down to the ground. So what I just shared with you is a great way to help allow your book to float up to the top and give it a chance to truly be discovered. But then it's on all of the other important things like a book cover and title and all that will help to convert and keep you up there. So I'm not gaming the system. I'm not ruining our market. I'm helping legit authors get above the others so that they can make that sale and make Amazon a better market. But otherwise, if you're not, you will fall. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. And we're all about good books, right?
Yeah, hey, this is our playground. We're all playing in it. I'm hoping I actually have this page that's called like Kindlepreneur Morals, and I think there's another word in there. But the whole point about it is like, look, I'm not here to try to there's nothing quick and easy about all of this. This is about creating great products. My goal at Kindlepreneur is to help good authors get to the top.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're one of those that where your thing is, I just want to get rich quick, this is not the website for you. I'm not here because I make most of my money from my books on Amazon. Like, I don't want to ruin the system. I don't bite the hand that feeds, right? Exactly. But another thing that I say about marketing tactics too, especially online, is there's no such thing as a bad tactic. But what it is a good tactic in the hands of somebody who's going to abuse it becomes a bad tactic.
Yeah.
So let's all use our marketing knowledge for good, and let's make it a better place.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. Well, this has been so many. I'm gonna have to re-listen. This is such great advice. I'll have to re-listen again, and probably listeners will do the same. But I like to come to the end of an interview and ask, what is the best piece of advice as a writer or an author entrepreneur that you were given or wish you'd been given when you started out?
Well, specifically for self-publishing, we talked about how you can write to a market, right?
Yeah.
But if you are in this for the long run, you want to do more than just one book. I 100% absolutely recommend that while you write that first book or you're kind of building a little bit of notoriety, that you work on that other tactic we talked about, okay? The building your author website, or your email list. But more importantly, I think the best thing you can do for yourself is to learn a traffic generating skill. I think in the online world, that's the most important thing we can do. Don't choose 50 of them. Don't try to be like Facebook ads and SEO and AMS and Pinterest and like when you try to do all that, you'll get nothing accomplished. The best thing you can do is become the best Facebook ads expert possible, and work on that, or become an SEO guru, like just the one thing. Because as you start writing your books and you're getting through it, your skill will develop. And then when you launch that next book, you're able to apply the skill and find that market and bring it to your book, as well as write a great book for a market exists. And when you combine those two, that's when you're making the money that most of us are dreaming about, that we're thinking about, that we're able to build our author career, step away from work, and be home and do this full time. So don't undervalue the importance of developing one skill and try to say no to all the others that are out there.
Oh, that's great advice. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Dave, for sharing your tips today. And would you share what you currently have on the go, projects, books, and software? And then where can listeners find you online?
Sure. Well, I'm a big fan of one of those traffic generating skills, which is AMS. It's Amazon Marketing Services, and it allows you to advertise your book in the search results or, next to your competitors. So if somebody types, goes to like Harry Potter, and you've got your school young wizarding book, you can put it right there so that person might see yours and click on yours instead. And so that's a wonderful traffic generating skill. So what we're doing is we're creating a 100% free course on how to do everything in AMS. And I think it's going to be great. I can't wait to hear what people think about it. So I'm excited. That should be out 2 weeks from now. So.
Wow. And then people can find you online at kindlepreneur.com. Yeah.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Dave. This has been super helpful.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for having me.